Well, good afternoon, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. I think we'll have a few more people trickling in, but I don't want to hold you all up. So thank you for coming today. My name is Cindy Berry. This is Campus Analytics Has No Boundaries. Let me give you a little bit of background on me. I've got over 15 years experience in product management for K-12 and higher education. I was at Blackboard, College Board, and now I'm at Ellucian, and I'm the Senior Director of Product Management for Analytics and Reporting. Some of you might not be familiar with Ellucian. How many Ellucian customers do we have in the room? Well, great to see you. Thanks for coming today. For those that aren't familiar with Ellucian, we build solutions that power higher education institutions, from recruitment systems, we have student information systems, we have alumni management systems. So we cover the entire campus ecosystem. We actually have a portfolio of over 100 software solutions supporting the entire campus. And over the past few years, we've taken some time to kind of transform some of our products and our solutions to ensure we're meeting the school's needs of today, as well as looking forward into the future. We're focusing on things like scalability, versatility, flexibility, to ensure we're meeting the complex needs of every type of higher ed institution. So what I'm showing here is a brief snapshot that kind of summarizes what it is that we do. We support over 2,500 institutions. We have over 18 million students using our products, and we have over 125 vendor partners. We have more clients in the United States than any other ERP vendor, and we have one market. We solely focus on higher education. So again, thanks for attending today for the Ellucian customers. I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. I'd be very interested to hear what you're using from an analytics perspective on campus. And then just, again, any of your products. I've got a few fellow coworkers here as well, so if you have any questions or things we can help you answer, please do stop by. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to start with a student's perspective on data, then talk about some of the barriers institutions are facing. Then we'll talk about some of the colleges we're working with, how they're unlocking data on campus. And then I'm going to show you a demo of a solution that we're building right now that allows schools to dynamically explore their data, and then finally save some time for some questions and answers. So let's start with the students. In 2016, Ellucian surveyed over 1,000 students from both community colleges and four-year colleges to understand their perspective on data and their expectations on the way institutions are using their data. So more than, just as a summary snapshot, more than 3/4 of the students, so 77%, believe schools should be using more of their personal information to enhance their college experience, both inside and outside the classroom. So let's look at a few of the results. This one's a little bit of an eye chart. Only 1 in 4 students believe mobile apps know as much about them as their schools. 42% of students ranked a college or university as the industry best able to use their personal information to improve their experience. And this was overwhelmingly and surprisingly higher than the doctor's office or a financial institution. 93% of students expect they should only have to provide their personal information to their institution once. They expect a modern campus, which is where data is freely and securely transmitted among the systems across the institution. So in addition to the data one would expect students would want to share, like grades and test scores, 57% said they would share personal accomplishments. And then this is my favorite stat of all time. 23% said they would share their least favorite childhood photo if it improved their chance of admission to their college of choice. It's a good-looking kid right there. There's a few interesting things in here. Students do not believe schools should use their personal data for non-academic or non-career experiences, and they consider that to be things like student health care, securing housing, or getting advice on paying off debt. So let that sink in for a second. And then in stark contrast to that, they will share personal information for less practical purposes, like receiving offers from bookstores or restaurants and getting tickets to events. The overwhelming majority, 82%, believe personal information will transform the college experience in 10 years. From application to graduation, students give colleges an incredible amount of their personal information, and they want schools to use that data to optimize their college career. And I'll just pause for a second to note that this is a survey that we did. We had a third party do it for us. This is actually posted on the Ellucian site, the results. I can't remember the name of it, but if you're interested, you can stop by afterwards and I can give you my card and get you the name of the survey if you can't find it on our site. But some fascinating results. So let's switch focus over to the university. So as most of you know, coming from the university background, a campus is very complex. So it's a collection of thousands of people, of processes, and applications. Over the past several years, business intelligence has become an increasing priority, but it's not without its challenges. So there are technology, adoption, funding, and data governance barriers. Higher education is dealing with old legacy architecture with difficult to access information stuck often in on-premise databases. So this is not unique to higher education. Some of what you're seeing on this slide might resonate with you if you're noticing things in your company or with your clients for those that aren't in higher education. So decision makers, they're not comfortable with synthesizing large amounts of data, and they want the analysis provided to them. Data silos are a huge challenge. Decision makers are not using common data sets. Existing data warehouse solutions require complex implementations and ongoing maintenance at a very high cost to the institution. So we're getting used to an app world where the user experience is friendly and intuitive. Old BI tools, which have been off-putting for years, are actually more off-putting now. So as a consequence, adoption rates remain consistently low. The potential for data to drive continuous improvement is going unrealized at every turn. Companies are realizing a low return on investment, and they're finding it's expensive and risky to keep putting money into existing BI tools. So let's take a look at each of these barriers in a little bit more detail: the tech, the adoption, the funds, and the governance. So this is a simplified example of a university. Each system has a unique purpose and needs to share their information with other systems on campus. So for example, the bookstore might rely on information from the student information system. That's where the courses are being offered, what books are required, how many students have registered, and the learning management system might require similar information. So what we end up with is dozens, if not hundreds, of point-to-point integrations. Think about the connections that would need to be put in place if you added a new software solution, such as a new housing vendor, if you had a new system to deal with ID cards, if you had new payment processing, or if you had a new time entry management application. These point-to-point integrations shown here are costly to create and maintain, and they result in a lot of duplicate effort and complexity. They tend to be fragile. They're requiring time to be spent on continuous testing, upgrades, and business processes. They usually have disparate technologies and data requirements, and they take funds and resources away from other projects that could be delivering real value to the constituents. So let's switch from some of the tech barriers and look at a few of the adoption barriers. So many of you are familiar with EDUCAUSE. It's a nonprofit higher education technology association. They focus on areas like policy and research. So they recently surveyed higher education about the current state of institutional analytics at colleges and universities. So they found that analytics is an institutional priority for the vast majority of colleges and universities, with only a handful having little to no awareness. But even though this is a priority for most, they're only demonstrating a moderate level of BI maturity. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the survey results. So this is from that same EDUCAUSE publication. Institutions are immature across a wide set of measurements. So the primary barrier to mature institutional analytics program is investment and resources allocation. Specifically, few institutions reported that their analytics initiatives are viewed as an investment and are properly funded. So less than 25% believe their funding is sufficient. And less than 25% have a sufficient number of resources to support analytics. So in addition to acquiring appropriate levels of investment in analytics and resources, the survey results also indicated colleges and universities should take additional steps in their institutional analytics planning. So they need to identify things like the specific institutional problems that analytics can be expected to solve, the types of data required to solve those problems, and the technologies that can best deliver the needed analytics. Higher education is struggling with the same common questions that the majority of companies face. What data do we have? What data do we need? How are we doing? And what can we learn and apply? So let's switch focus for a second and talk about some of the steps higher education that they're taking to break through some of these barriers that we just reviewed. So we'll look at the same four. The idea of a campus-wide analytics offers exciting new opportunities as universities look to rationalize and consolidate data. They're striving to develop a culture of performance across the institution and desire to make data easier to access through a simpler, more intuitive UI. So let's start with the tech barriers. So part of the challenge that institutions have directly attributed to access the data, as well as the challenge of data between systems, is dealing with systems that can't talk to each other. It's simply no longer an option if you want to scale solutions and meet the rapidly changing needs of students, faculty, and staff. Applications that the university uses need to speak the same language. So here's what I mean when I say they need to speak the same language. Systems need a unified vocabulary. A course section is a course section regardless of whether you're looking at it in a student information system or the learning management system or a retention solution. With the data model, you literally have a model called sections, which has all the properties needed to exchange data about course sections among applications. In some ways, it doesn't really matter where the data is going. Once you have a course section defined, you can direct that data to any application that supports the data model. So think of it as a common language. Systems also need open standards with readable, wide support across the many technologies on campus, a community data model that meets the integration needs of the university. And instead of maintaining point-to-point integrations and building fragile integration code for every new application on campus, the institution can use the data model. Once an application knows how to handle a specific model, it can integrate with any other application that supports that model. When we broaden the definition of data, this is where it really starts to get exciting. A common data model allows an institution to capitalize on an unprecedented amount of information. The reporting and analytics potential is endless when the data is consolidated into a single unified format from multiple applications and systems. Institutions can now get a complete end-to-end picture of students across campus. So what does a data model look like? A data model is a collection of related information. So for example, when you think about a person, some of the information you might want to know is their name, their contact information, and their biographic information. This is how a data model is built. Once the elements in the model are defined, the systems from which the data will be sourced, so like the student information system, the customer relationship, the CRM management solution, the parking application, the human resources module, et cetera, they build the method to get the data out of that source database. That method is known as an API, an application programming interface, and that makes that data available for use in other applications. So while the data model standardizes the data, so the next step would be ensuring that data flows seamlessly between all the applications to connect systems that were previously not able to talk to each other. So remember that Brittle picture, this replaces that Brittle picture. So in the end, a common data model combined with campus-wide integration capabilities allows everyone to work smarter, manage better, and most importantly, make informed decisions about student and institutional success. So let's talk about where Tableau fits. So we talked about the common data model that allows institutions to extend data and bring siloed data in a standard, managed, sustainable way without having customized, delivered code. On top of that is that integration layer we just talked about, managing the distribution of data. So the next layer is the data lake, where you consolidate data and you can track changes over time. And that brings us to Tableau and the ability for an institution to dynamically explore data originating from multiple departments, multiple applications, multiple databases, all consolidated and represented in the same consistent way. So as analytics solution powered by Tableau provides a modern UI that's expected in today's world. And it can help with the adoption barriers that we discussed. So imagine an analytics solution that provides pre-delivered content based on who you are and what you're trying to achieve. Users have a customized experience with dashboards that are easily configured to show relevant content, and they also have the flexibility to dynamically explore their data. With an easy-to-use interface, we can remove one of the main adoption obstacles, confusion and difficulty in understanding how to navigate and view results. A university dean can quickly call up a dashboard that they've tailored and saved to their tablet. A student advisor can slice and sort data to answer a new question. Having an easy-to-use interface only solves part of the challenge. The availability, reliability, and understandability of the data is critical. So imagine a solution that's answering questions that have been next to impossible to answer until now. So given that the data needed to answer these questions are siloed throughout the institution. So questions like, how many part-time employees do we have and what's been the trend over the past 2 years? Would an increase in tuition impact our current aid recipients? And for me, the holy grail, what is the cost of a course? Higher ed institutions are faced with tight budgets and limited IT resources. The cloud offers a modern, connected campus with innovation without disruption. Solutions that are reliable, available, and secure, providing lower operational, financial, and reputational risks associated with IT environments, and delivering solutions that are built for tomorrow, ready today. So last but not least, let's review some of the ways higher ed is tackling the governance barriers. So when we think about higher ed data and analytics, we think about 4 pillars. There's the data ownership, the data quality, the data security, and the data access. An institution needs to establish who owns the data at an institution. It's not as simple as it seems. They need to distinguish the other data roles, such as the data governance council, the data trustees, the data steward, the data custodian, and the data consumer, the end user. An institution needs an infrastructure to govern how data elements are defined, recorded, and displayed. You can think of that as a data dictionary. They also need data standards to ensure all data is defined consistently, input accurately, errors are corrected, and that data correctness and completeness are maintained. They need to determine how data is classified. Is it public? Is it private, sensitive, restricted? Who receives access to what? And at the same time, they need to adhere to numerous external compliance requirements such as FERPA and HIPAA. They also need to determine how and where the data is stored, how it's handled, how it's shared, how it's distributed, how it's protected, which requires a comprehensive set of policies and procedures for both personnel and IT resources. So some institutions have a centralized data management department, but many are decentralized, making data governance a big challenge and often a contributing factor as to why adoption is low on campus. They're working to put a plan in place. I just read a really long list, and that's only a partial list of all the things that I know half of you are probably struggling with. So let's get to the fun part. Let's talk about higher ed is leveraging Tableau to give them power, choice, and flexibility. So when we think about a campus, we think about the people on the campus, or we can refer to those as personas. So roles like the president, the CFO, the VP of enrollment, and the VP of advancement. Each of these key stakeholders have questions that they need quickly answered. So the president may want to know the overall count of prospective students this year compared to the last 3 years. The VP of Finance or the CFO, they're asking, what's my 5 highest categories of expense by organization for the past 3 fiscal periods? The VP of Enrollment wants to understand the diversity breakdown of the enrollment funnel last year by funnel status. And the VP of Advancement is asking for the trends in demographic, biographic, and geographic characteristics of our donors over the past 3 years. So there are hundreds of personas across campus who have thousands of questions they're trying to answer. The dean of the business college may be talking to the provost about academic outcomes of traditional programs versus new online courses. The provost may need enrollment projections for the School of Nursing. The questions are endless. So if we're starting with the data and thinking about the data, we need to logically break that down into groupings. So at a very high level, we've divided up the world of higher education into 7 different domains. You've got the core, you've got student, recruitment, advancement, financial aid, finance, and human resources. So these are application agnostic domains. They're ways of looking at data across the entire institution, regardless of the systems that are interacting with the data or regardless of how that data is stored. So let's take a look at the kinds of analytics a campus might be interested in for each of these domains and the kinds of questions they are using analytics to answer. So within the student domain, the dean may be interested in the impact of the instructor-to-student ratio. So the instructor-to-student ratio can impact whether a student remains in a course. The ratio may also impact the student's success in the course. So this is answering questions like, as the student-to-instructor ratio increases, is there an increase in the failure rate? Is there a differential in the drop or withdrawal numbers for a particular department or course based on the student-to-instructor ratio? And is there a noticeable decline in the median grade of face-to-face courses with the ratios above the mean? So let's switch over to the financial aid domain and look at an example. The president has asked for a 3-year view of financial aid awards. The award information can be segmented by aid type, by category, by classification, and source for a specific aid year or period. So the aid award comparison analytic can answer questions like, what's the distribution of award amounts by aid type? What's the year-to-year comparison of total aid awarded? And what's the student headcount comparison by aid category? Let's look at the recruitment domain. The director of admissions is looking at the academic qualifications of prospective students over the course of the past 3 years and seeing if they are an accurate predictor of whether or not students end up attending the university. Funnel Performance Trend provides a broad view into the performance of a recruitment class over the past 3 years, sliced by multiple attributes such as academic study, diversity, and academic qualifications. So this is answering questions such as, what are the performance rates this academic year, both conversion and yield? What's the performance this year compared with the last 2 years? And are prospective student academic qualifications a predictor of yield rates? Now the CFO might be analyzing vendors. So he wants to create a what-if scenario to determine the impact of increases or discounts by vendor or vendor classification based on activity over the last 3 years. So he's wondering, based on a 3-year average of activity with a specified vendor, how much would a discount save the university? Or for a specified vendor, what would the impact be of a 4.5% increase based on the 3-year average of activity? Now we've got the director of human resources, who's looking at the impact of changing the minimum years of service. Recruitment eligibility impact forecasts the effect of employee retirement and helps support succession planning efforts. How many employees will be eligible for retirement in the next 3 years? What would be the impact if the minimum years of service changed? What would be the impact if the minimum age of retirement changed? And which departments will be most impacted by changing retirement eligibility requirements? And last but not least, the VP of Advancement wants to look at the 3-year breakdown of alumni contributions by pledges, gifts, and matching claims. Annual giving progress shows the incremental and overall progress of annual contributions by week or month for the specified year of giving. This analytic answers questions such as, what is the current funding status of the annual fund? How is this progressing on a monthly or weekly basis? What are the total committed dollars versus total dollars received? And what's the breakdown of giving by contribution transaction type? So colleges like Becker College are already reimagining ways to open up access to information on their campus, removing silos, and rationalizing and consolidating data. By leveraging a cloud-based warehouse that integrates with our ERP and CRM, we were able to achieve the business need for dynamic dashboards based on historical data with very little heavy lifting by our IT staff. And institutions like the University of Toledo are using analytics to answer questions and enable data-driven decision-making. Ellucian Analytics empowers the end user with direct access to relevant data, helping enrollment managers and recruiting personnel make smarter, data-informed decisions. And this is what analytics is all about, putting the most important data directly in the hands of the user. So let's take a look. I am going to... So we're a little bit slow on the wireless here, but I thought I would try to give you guys a quick demo. So one of the biggest questions I get is, does Tableau support predictive analytics? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to type in forecasting, and I'm a terrible typist. As you can see, I already misspelled it once today. Ow. What do I need to do to show the screen? Tech support. I forgot to tell you I'm doing a demo. Sorry. I just assumed it was going to project. Well, it looks really cool what I'm looking at right now, so I can't wait to show you.
So you're already hooked up
Yeah.
here, right?
Yep.
So you just need to come out of the extended view
Okay.
mode and duplicate your screen.
Oh, shoot. What was one of those? I needed Jason. He just left.
Yeah.
You know how to do it? So I'm going to give you a quick demo. I'll show you 3 different tiles that we have built. So we're pre-delivering content. And then with Tableau, you're also able to customize any of the pre-delivered content, and then you're able to create your own content. And then I'll show you some of the structure around it. Like we've got a data dictionary that defines all the terms. So one of the things I talked about is a barrier understanding the data. Thank you. All right, note to self. Here we go. So now I'm still going to probably mistype forecasting. So this is an example of the predictive analytics. So this is going to be funnel year-to-date forecasting. And what I can do is if I say for additional prospects, we're going to have 1,000 additional prospects, it's using the history of the past 3 years. This is a demo data set, so the data, it's a little bit outdated. I think this says it's fall 2015, so we're going back a little bit in time. So it's looking at the trends over the past 3 years. And now if I say this year, I think I'm going to get 1,000 additional prospects, my projected estimate is going to go up. I think it was 634, it went up to 667. And then you'd also be able to adjust any of these triggers of percentages, so you could change rates. So if you thought you were going to have a higher yield rate, so that's how many students actually show up on campus, you could start changing those numbers and do some modeling. And then you've got the filters down the side, the global filters. This is delivered in a dashboard, so there's related data that's available. So based on the data set behind this, delivering some content that will show this data in different ways. Funnel goal, compare. And as that one loads, down here at the bottom, there's recommended content as well, other things you might be interested in. And then we have the definitions, right? So this is what I was talking about with the metadata. So it describes all the terms that are used. So if I wanted to see the definition of academic period, I could get a quick definition, or I can view it in the data dictionary. And this shows all the other visualizations that are using academic period. So it's another way to explore, rather than just doing a search, you could use the data dictionary as well. All right, so that was an example of the predictive. And let's look at credit. So I'm going to look at the credit completion rate profile. So you can use analytics to look back in time at trends over the past few years. You can use it to predict the future. You can also use this to help students right now. So that's another area we're focusing on. So let's just say I'm an advisor. So this is showing the credit completion rate profile. On the left-hand side, you have the total credits earned, and along the bottom, you've got the total credits attempted. So I can see there's some people in the bottom left quadrant. We don't really want students in the bottom left quadrant. That means there's something wrong. They're not earning the credits they're trying to achieve. Or in this case, the dark blue means it's 100%. So we've got 1,034 students who attempted 9, and they earned 9, but they're below the average of 12. But let's say I'm an advisor. So I also want to use this to help students right now. I'm going to change, and I'm going to say I am John Allen. Now this is just going to show me my students. So what I can do, I've got these students again who have attempted and earned the credits they were trying to earn, but they're still below the average. So I might want to meet with them to find out what's going on, why aren't they raising the bar a little bit. It's probably going to take them longer to get through school, right? You want them to maintain, if it's a 2-year or 4-year, you want to get them in and out and on to succeed. But here I've got some students. So I've got 239 students that attempted 12, they only earned 9. So one of the things I can do is drill into the student list. So for any of these, you can start linking the content together and go tile to tile, so you can get to the information behind that tile. Now, as the advisor, I might want to start reaching out to these students and see if there's a way that I can help them. And then with any of these tiles, you are able to save any of the changes that you've made, so you can come back in and make your default. So if you customize this and you want to, every time you come in, I'm the advisor, John, I just want to automatically, when I come to that credit completion rate profile, see my students, I can save this, make it my default, and that will be the one that I come to each time, and I can still get to the original view. All right, and then, let's show you the grade distribution comparison. So with the grade distribution comparison, the other thing I should point out, up here under help for each of the tiles gives a description of the tile, tells some of the assumptions behind that content, and some of the questions that that tile might answer. So for example, with this one, is there a significant difference in grade distribution between instructional methods? Do certain biographic groups typically get higher grades? So what you can do, we've got some filters across the top. Right now we're looking at course instructional method. So I've got all the different field work, independent study, lab, lecture, and I've got the grades across the bottom. So maybe I want to look at this by gender, so I can see the males and the females. Maybe I want to look at this by race. So you can start to explore your data different ways. And you've got the workbook across the top, so maybe I want to look at the grade distribution by course detail. That's probably going to take a minute to load. And again, down at the bottom, you've got all the metadata, other recommended content, and then other things by the same person who created that content. In this case, it's Ellucian. And here's the grade distribution by course detail. So I've shown you a few times that there's recommended content. One of the things you can do when you first sign into the system, there's a little wizard that'll ask you some questions. It'll ask you, what are the functional roles that you're interested in? What are the topics? And what are the categories? So based on those selections, we're recommending content. At any point in time, you can come back and you can change those selections. There's also security on the back end, so maybe I'm not supposed to have permission to see the HR data. I am not in HR, so you're able to lock it down as well. So even though on the front end it looks like I can select anything I want to select, there's still control on the back end that's saying Cindy does not have permission to see HR content, do not show her any HR tiles. And then last thing, data dictionary, easy to get to as well. You can come in here through the front end. Oh, I didn't pull it up earlier. We got to go in through the back end. Sorry, this is the demo set that we're refreshing. So with the data dictionary, I'm not going to go through it in the back end again. I want to get to your questions. With the data dictionary, it has a list of all the terms that we're using, so you can explore it from the front end as well. Or, like I showed you before, you can get to a tile and just see all of the, go in through the metadata and see all the tiles that are using that term if you want to explore that way. All right, so that was a very quick overview of this analytics solution powered by Tableau. I'm not going to go through the hassle of switching back over to the presentation. So happy to take any questions you might have at this point. Yes? Yes. No, we are working on snapshots right now. So first half of next year, we're going to have that snapshot functionality available. That's our target. So you'd be able, so for those that don't know, this is pulling in data live. You can control how often it's updating. So if you, in 2015, had a student maybe who lived in Virginia and then changed to New York, that New York change would flow through. So if I was looking at a data set of 15, 16, 17, and maybe I want to truly do a point-in-time comparison, I need to do some kind of report that says how many students were in Virginia in 2015. So that's the snapshotting where you can freeze the data and say, maybe it's October 15th every year, I want to freeze it, and I'm going to do October 15th comparison to October 15th to October 15th of 3 years. So that is going to be available first half of next year. Yes?
So using this is going to be a purchase product that can go on top of Banner, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Would you need the ODS and EDW purchase to leverage this?
No, this is independent. This is in the cloud. It's a different value proposition. So we do have a lot of clients that have ODS, EDW. So those are reporting solutions, a way you can store and report on data out of Banner, which is a student information system. That's probably our largest offering that we have. So we would recommend, we want to talk to each client individually, but if you're already underway with ODS, EDW, then keep ODS, EDW. This is solving a different problem. That data is coming through the data model, so it's kind of mixing data together. So if you don't have ODS, EDW, you do not need to purchase it to use this.
Okay, we don't, so that's what I was asking.
Just in case anybody does, you don't need to purchase ODS, or you don't need to change over this, again, a different value proposition. Yes?
Do you have any analytics that identify at-risk students? So before they fall into that lower left quadrant, if they're not attending class or other activities?
We are working on that right now. So I don't know if you're familiar with the IHEP framework. So we are trying to get some content that actually focuses on those at-risk students. We're going to start releasing that fourth quarter and then continue on in the first quarter of next year. And we're also going to do things like in a workbook. So I was showing you we've got the multiple tabs that show related data. We're going to try this idea of a dashboard on the front of it. So again, typically people think of analytics as looking at history or looking forward, but you do want to help the students right now. So we are thinking about creating some dashboards that show you the health of that workbook. So if you're thinking about a student, you could quickly start to identify the at-risk students and get in and help them right now rather than letting them be a statistic. So more on that Q4, Q1.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
This may be a little outside of what you're working with here, but this might be a little outside of what you guys are planning on working with, but are you planning on putting any stuff on the far end of the process as far as helping students on the career side, kind of their post-college world and measuring those kind of success factors, or are you just staying strictly with the college experience?
So right now, for the first couple of years, we're going to focus strictly on the college experience. We are looking at the student experience overall. So there's things like degree planning that we have today. So there's some of that content that we might be able to get in here and start doing some stuff within the next year or two. We would love to do the forward looking. We do have to figure out where that data is coming from. So another thing that we're working on right now is extensibility. So you're able, if you've got data in a spreadsheet, I'm sorry I don't look this way. They told me not to turn that much because I'll go away from my mic. But with extensibility, you'd be able to get data from a spreadsheet or other systems in through to analytics as well. It goes up that chain that I was showing you before, comes in through the data model, gets stored in the data lake, and then it's available for analytics. So that would be if someone had a source of data, they'd be able to start building their own analytics on top of it. If we could figure out where that is sourced, like some large partner that we could work with, then we'd absolutely start looking at things like that. So my guess is next year will be some of the things I'll start to look at forward looking.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
I'm a current student right now, so are any of these things student facing? Because when I look at my own stuff in our WebSys portal, I just see I've spent this much on tuition, these have been my grades. I'd love to have like a student dashboard view so I can see what classes I've taken, what my average grades are, if I tend to do better in math classes versus science classes. Is there anything in the future planned for student facing?
We are looking at that. That's a very timely topic. We started talking about that over the course of the past month. So yes, we're absolutely looking at that. I don't have timing yet. I'm hoping 2018 we can start to build that out. But yes, that is a huge need. So we will have something at some point. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. Sorry to turn my back.
What sorts of human resources type reports are you looking to build?
Well, it'll be anything across the board. So we work with I think we've got over 50 institutions that are in our development partner group. So we're actively working with them to determine what kind of content it is that they want to see. I can't remember off the top of my head. I've got a roadmap that I can pull up if you want to come up afterwards. It's available on our e-community site, and it shows you what we're targeting. But it's really, about the salary information. It would be about employees, about retention. So there's a list that we've already pushed content out in Q3. We're pushing more out every quarter for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I can show you that roadmap. Here, she's closer, and then we'll get to you. We'll make Dan run.
So I really like these pre-built dashboards, but is there a way where you can create your own Tableau dashboards
Yes.
and then publish it up here?
Yes. So you can either modify the ones we've delivered, or you can create your own. So there's a couple different role types. There's viewer. The majority of people are just viewers who are going to consume. And then you can decide if you want some designers who are able to modify the content. So you can either do that online. We've got a web edit tool. Or if you've got Tableau Desktop, you could use that and then publish up.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Yes.
Well, I had the same exact question. However, that project that develops does it sit on top of a Tableau server instance then? I mean, so it sounds like you have very similar functionality on web authoring roles and publishers.
Yeah. This is a SaaS. It's a SaaS stack. So that kind of that tier that I showed you before, that layer cake. So that is an entire SaaS platform. So yes, we are using Tableau Server, but there's a lot more underneath it. So one of the other questions I get is, we've got Tableau Server. Can we use Tableau Server? You can't just plop your own solution on top because it is a very complicated stack of information. We are looking to build an export feature. So if you bring data in through the data model and it's sitting in the lake, one of the biggest requests we're getting is we want to get that data out. So that's something we're looking at. So if you did have your own reporting solution, so you wanted to also get the data out to use it in your own Tableau Server instance, that will be available, I'm hoping, at some point next year. Yeah. Yes.
Is this available for the colleague schools?
Yes.
And is the stack solution, if you already have CROA, is it going to be an add-on? How's that going to work?
Yeah, same answer for the ODS EDW on the banner side. So for those that aren't familiar, Colleague is another one of the student information systems. And they've got a CROA, which allows them to do operational reporting, much like ODS EDW on the banner side. So same answer, different value proposition. Yes, this is available, works with Colleague. There is a subscription fee, an annual subscription fee, and then there is a fee for each viewer and for each designer that you want to have in the system. So it's a named user license fee. We work right now, I talked about the APIs to get data out. So we're building APIs right now for Banner, Colleague, CRM Recruit, and CRM Advanced. So that's our initial focus. We'll start to build more next year to get out of more of our systems if you've got others.
Is the product going to be delivered with all of the different modules,
Yes.
or are you going to price out them separately?
Nope, it's all inclusive. Yes. No, we talk offline about that, but this is separate from that, so there's a subscription fee for this separate from CROA. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Good question. So the question was if we see CROA fading away. No. So one of the biggest misnomers out there is also that we're either going to stop supporting CROA or we're going to stop supporting ODS EDW. We are absolutely not going to do that. So we are still actively investing in all those products. This, again, is a different value proposition. It is not meant to replace your operational reporting solution that is hooked up with your ERP system. So that this, coming through the data model, it's coming into the data lake. You can get data from across your institution and start to work with it. No plans to stop working on CROA, ODS, or EDW. Yes, behind you.
Is this somehow leveraging or working with the Ellucian ethos
Yes.
data layer piece?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. So when I showed that stack, I can't get back to it. Hold on, I can still go back to it.
Please don't forget to fill out the survey online, please.
Okay. I'm going to try to get back to that stack. That might, I just don't have my view on the screen anymore. Let me know if there it is. Yeah. So this is that ethos data model at the bottom, and then ethos integration. And then we have the data lake. So that's where ethos, kind of what you're familiar with ethos stops. We've got the data lake where now data is being stored, and then it'll be consumed by analytics. And then we realize that the next question we're getting is, can we do reporting off of that same data set? So looking into that as well. That is not available yet. We're still doing proofs of concept to figure that out, so I don't even have timing for that. But we know that's a request that we don't want to just build analytics. We also want to do some reporting on top of that. Yep, so this is that ethos data model. Other questions? Yes?
So if we just want the templates to what dashboards you already have, and we already have the ODS data warehouse, what's it, and it costs more, this is a different model,
yes.
I guess. How do we access the templates? We just want the templates for the dashboards.
Well, the templates wouldn't work for you because, again, this has come through that data model. So it's a completely different structure. So if you had the templates, it wouldn't work with ODS CDW because the schema is different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last question.
Is it possible just to get the data dictionary separate? Or is that only included if you go with the whole cloud analytics solution?
Well, right, you just want to see the data dictionary?
If you can purchase that piece separately, so you could always have that data dictionary out there for colleges to go out and use just that portion of it, or is it integrated only in with the product?
So you want to just see the data dictionary, or what do you want with the data dictionary? Like just a published version, like a pamphlet?
So if I wanted to put all our
Don't wanna
definitions
simplify.
up there, so that we don't have necessarily the whole Tableau solution yet, but we
Right.
could at least leverage the data dictionary portion.
Yeah.
Can we leverage that and put all our definitions up into a data dictionary and get that module, or is that tied together?
We have not had that request before. So the data dictionary right now is just available within Ellucian Analytics. It's not interactive. Yeah, so if you want to give me your card, I can look into, because we're constantly adding to it as well, so it's kind of a moving target. Yeah, so let me look into if we're going to publish that anywhere outside of the
I'm
system
just
or
curious.
not.
Right now we're using the iData cookbook, and I can
Yeah.
see this be a better fit, maybe.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's a moving, we're updating on a monthly basis, so we're pushing out new content every month, so that data dictionary does change.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to give me your card, then we can have a conversation and figure out what we can do there and see if you think it'll be useful or not. Okay. All right, well, thank you everyone for your time. Happy to answer more questions if you want to come up afterwards, and have a great, rest of the show, but there's not much left, so enjoy.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.